Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome, dear devotees, to our Monday evening Bhagavad-Gita class. And how are you all doing today?
Hare Krishna, Dandrat Pranams, doing fine. It's
Good.
cold.
It's cold there. All right.
Hare Krishna,
Very
Mataji.
good, Mataji.
Hare
Krishna.
All
Hare
God is to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
All God is to Srila Prabhupada.
Fantastic. We have a good turnover today. Okay, so we
Hare
will
Krishna,
get going, get started now. So you get ready with your notepad, chat pads, whatever you have. Yeah.
My notepad.
And there we go. So we'll get started with our Bhagavad Gita class after the short prayers to the spiritual master. Om Ajnanatimharandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from the Bhagavad-Gita, we are on chapter number 2, and we're going to do verse number 2 today. And before that, we'll have a quick look at verse number 1, and where Krishna says, Jayasi chet karmanaste Mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So after listening to all the things that Krishna has told them, he's saying, why are you making me fight this ghastly war? And then he continues on in the next verse, which is the verse for today for us, and where Arjuna is saying to Krishna, Vyamishrineva vakyena buddhim mohyasi evame tad ekam vada nischitya yena shreyoham apnuyam. Vyamishrineva vakyena buddhim mohyasi mohya siva me tad ekam vada nischitya yena shreyoham apnuyam. So some nice new words over here in Sanskrit, and let's see how we're going to handle those here. So Vyamishrina means equivocal. Equivocal. So what does equivocal mean? What do you think? Take out your pads and respond. Don't be shy. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. Just think. Equivocal. Right? Vyamishrina. I like it. Supata is talking Sanskrit. I'm asking what's the, and that's fine. I'm asking what's the meaning of equivocal. So unison. So that's one option that came. Not good, not bad is equal, right? The unison, like that, you know, right? Vyamishrena vakyena equivocal. So contrary to our general understanding, and I'll give it to you because the word equi has got equi and vocal and things like that. Equivocal actually means that there's something, some words are being spoken and they are subject to multiple interpretations. One word and people can understand and interpret it different ways. So that will cause ambiguity in the mind and we won't know what to do. There's whatever you're saying, there's some uncertainty there. It's of a questionable nature there. And so whatever you're telling me to do, then if I'm confused about it, then I won't be able to do what you're asking me, supposedly asking me to do, right? So then let's go further into our verse. So Vyamishrena, right? Vyamishrena equivocal. Eva, certainly, that we know by now. Vyakyena means words. Buddhim means intelligence. So vakyena, vakya, vak means speech, right? So you speak the words. Buddhim is intelligence. Mohayasi, you are bewildering. So moh we know now is bewilderment, right? Buddhi moha, we read that in the second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Eva we know certainly. Me is my. Tat therefore, small words. Ekam, only one. Mam ekam sharanam braja. Ekam, only one, just me, right? Vada, please tell. Nishchitya, ascertaining. Yena, by which. Shreya, real benefit. Aham, I. Apnuyam, may have. Okay, so now Arjuna is continuing and he's saying in this particular verse that my intelligence is bewildered, right? His intelligence itself is bewildered. So when the intelligence is bewildered, cannot make decisions, cannot discriminate. This is the right one or that is the right one. Cannot do that. So here he's saying my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. By your equivocal instructions, therefore, he's requesting. What is he requesting? He's saying, please tell me decisively, make a decision, this or that or that. Decisively, which will be most beneficial for me. Okay? So he's saying, you know, whatever you're saying is there, and I'm getting confused. So what am I supposed to do? That's the question that Arjuna is asking. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad-Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, this or that, soul or body, matter or spirit, right? Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, be like a tortoise, right? Work without fruitive desire, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented systematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. So Krishna has given him the high level thing, right? Buddhi Yoga. Now, what am I supposed to do as part of Buddhi Yoga? I don't know. So Arjuna then therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters, vyamishrena, apparently confusing matters, so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. So you can see that depending on the level of intelligence that we are and how much sharp our intelligence is, things spoken by somebody can be misinterpreted and we can become bewildered by the statements of somebody. But as our intelligence is going to rise higher and higher, then the same sentence will make clarity, bring clarity and make sense to us. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. Should I do work or should I not do work? Akarma, right? Or the act. In other words, by his questions, he's clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad-Gita, the mystery of the Bhagavad-Gita. So those of you who have read Enid Blyton in your youth, she was a very famous English writer. A lot of us grew up in India reading mystery of this, mystery of that, by Enid Blyton. So this is mystery of Bhagavad-Gita by Lord Shri Krishna. So, so nice purport. Prabhupada is explaining why Arjuna is, Arjuna is saying like, what am I supposed to do? And Krishna is explaining here that, why is he asking that question, right? And we can look at that from various angles and various perspectives. But first and foremost, let's just bring out our pads again and answer this question. Think about it and answer this question that why do we ask questions? So that is the question. Why do we ask questions? So Sadhana Mataji says to clear doubts. That's correct. Any other reasons why one would ask a question? And while you're asking that question or thinking about it, I'm just going to go and grab some water here. Just kept on the other end of the room. Okay, I'm back and let's see. So we ask questions to clarify our doubts, to understand, out of curiosity, for explanation, to understand things better, to increase our knowledge, to clear our doubts, because we are humans. Okay. Do you think that the animals don't ask questions? What are all these birds doing so much talking in the morning and talking again in the evening? Right? So, okay, but I know Virabha what you meant by that. Okay, and then Sadhana Mati says to sometimes do what we think sometimes to do, okay, we ask questions so that we can do what we think we need, right? So these are some of the reasons that people ask questions. Sometimes people will also ask questions, and when I start telling you the reasons people ask questions, you'll be like, yeah, that happens. Sometimes we ask questions when we are angry. Why does she do that to me? Why does he say that to me? Does it happen to anyone of you? Please type a yes if it happens. Please type a no if it doesn't. All right, so I'm getting some yeses over there, right? These are the questions we ask. Sometimes, people will also ask questions at the end of the class, and they will ask the teacher that, can you please tell me if this understanding is right? So they're asking a question, and why they want to test their own understanding. They want to make sure. Sometimes they'll ask a question to test the teacher. Let's ask a difficult question. Sometimes we'll ask questions just for fun, just for having fun. And I remember when I was doing in my engineering college, there was one semester where we had done a whole lot of engineering machines, and basically they were machines that generated electrical power. And so there was a lot of design and magnetism and concepts and all those kinds of things were there in that. And so we had progressed a lot into that particular subject and that particular topic. And then the new batch came somewhere in the middle. There was a delay in the new batch joining, so they came a little later into the semester. And those days there used to be, and I don't know what's the English word for that, but India, right word for that here in America, but in India we used to call it ragging, and which is when a newcomer joins, instead of welcoming that person, we would, tease them or make them speak things. So they just, the boys in my class, they brought one of these young persons, newcomers, had him sit in the class. And when the teacher taught was finished with his lecture, he said, any questions? And this person gets up and he says, what is a machine? And which is like, oh my goodness, you are on the 4th year of engineering and gone through all the electrical machines we talked about, and you're asking this question, what is a machine? And of course, he asked that question, and I still remember I was sitting in the front row, and somebody at the back asked that question, what's a machine? And I was bewildered, and so I turned to see who's asking that question, and I could see a person running out of the classroom after asking that question. So obviously the seniors in the class had, just to have some fun with the teacher, had asked that, made him ask that question. So people will ask those questions for that. People will ask that question just to, from the cheeky perspective. I remember I was in a moral science class and I was in school, and one girl asked this question that can God build a wall so tall that he cannot climb? So like, what kind of a question is that? So people will ask this kind of question sometimes also, or they'll ask a question which is way beyond the teacher's level. Student might think like that and ask him a cheeky question to test the teacher's understanding, whether they know it or whether they not know it, whether they're bluffing or whether they're not bluffing, right? So there are different kinds of questions that people will ask. And the kind of questions that you ask also tells you and displays and gives away our level of understanding and our intelligence level. So there was a question that, as human beings, we only we ask questions as human beings, and that is right to a certain extent. Yes, we ask intellectual questions. And one of the first sutras, Vedanta sutras, is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So Athato Brahma Jigyasa basically is saying that now that you've got a human body, you should ask questions, jigyasa, you should have questions, to get the knowledge about Brahman, about the spirit. Because animals in general do not ask about the spirit. They don't ask spiritual questions, right? So all the birds who are talking in the morning, everybody, have you packed your bag? Have you used the bathroom? Let's go. And then they come back to roost and they're again talking. Oh, I found that nut, it was so tasty. And oh, that one, I put my beak in it, it was bad. I'm just kidding. But obviously you see that there's a lot of chatter that goes on there. Now, majority of the human beings ask 4 questions. And what are those 4 questions? Anybody wants to volunteer? What are the 4 questions that the majority of human beings ask? Keep them coming. Okay, why me? Why this is happening to me? Who am I? Maybe. Yeah. Who we are. Okay. Majority of the people ask this question. Do you think majority of the people are asking, who am I? They know I am something, right? Who is God? So Prabhupada says that in his various lectures, he points on him and he says that 4 questions we always ask is, what shall I eat? Where will I sleep? Who will I mate with? And how will I defend myself? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Yes. Where is food? That's the question. Yes. Right. Other questions that you've asked, yes, they do ask. People do ask those questions, but not as a majority. Majority will be asking about these 4, and which is kind of, the questions that even animals ask. The question, right? But then we refine our things. We also behave like animals, right? And then, we are also after food, but then, if we are a little bit more refined, we will just go and offer it first as bhoga to the Lord. So we come across, different kinds of questions are there. Different kinds of questions are asked. And so what is the best question that we should ask? And let us just try to recap, because we have done 4 years of Srimad Bhagavatam studies together on Fridays. So anybody can, maybe collectively, you can help build that list of what are the 6 questions that the sages in Naimisharanya asked, which led to the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken in Naimisharanya by Sutta Goswami to the sages who were headed by Shaunaka Rishi. What were the 6 questions that they asked? Archana says, what is the ultimate goal of life? Okay. There were 6. The sages of Naimisharanya. Remember, the sages of what is the ultimate good for humanity? Good. The sages of Naimisharanya are there, and Kali Yuga is about to begin. So they're asking these 6 questions of Sutta Goswami. So Karima says, what are the Leelas of Krishna? What is the essence of life? Says Khyati, when Krishna goes away, what will happen? How can people be peaceful and find their way back to Godhead? Says Virava Bhav Mataji. Garima says, what is good for humanity? Khyati says, how can I serve Krishna's devotee? Krishna says, what is the ultimate goal of life? Right? So the sages of Naimisharanya, to be precise and to be accurate, yes, you did give some of the answers there. So the first question he asked is, what is the ultimate good for the people? What is the ultimate good? Carrots are good for you. Milk is also good. What is the ultimate good for people? Is the question they're asking, right? And then because it was Kali Yuga and they knew that time is short and people will not have the time to read all the scriptures. Now, you know, Vedas are huge. Mahabharata is 1 lakh verses. Padma Purana bigger, like that. Rig Veda huge, right? And there's so many Puranas, so many Upanishads, so many, histories, and so on and so forth. How do you read? So they knew that time is going to be short for people. So they asked this question, tell us the essence of all the scriptures, because we don't have time. So please tell us, what is the essence of all the scriptures that are there? And then they also asked that, what is the purpose? What is the purpose for which Lord Sri Krishna appeared in this material world? What is the reason he came into this material world? Okay, now you remember that Krishna has just left the planet not many years prior. We don't know the exact time, somewhere about 200 years after he has left. Things are still hot, the news is still hot. So he's asking that, why did he appear? And then, what are the activities of his incarnations? Right? He has so many incarnations. What do those incarnations do? And then they wanted particularly to have this question answered, that what does his incarnations do specifically with respect to creation of this material world? How does all this creation happen? Because we find ourselves in this jail. And so how did this jail get created? I want to know, because in order to find a way out of the jail, we need to know how the jail is constructed so that we can get out, right? And then he will say, and then they will ask the question that, now that Krishna has gone, and there's a very famous verse in Bhagavatam that says, Krishna swadham upagate dharma jnana divi saha. So when Krishna goes back, with him, the religious principles as well as knowledge, religious knowledge, go back with him. Dharma and jnana, both are gone. So if both of them are gone, how are the people going to live for the 4,32,000 years that the Kali Yuga is going to last? What's going to be our guiding principle? What is going to be my manual? How do we live? So these were the 6 questions that they asked, right? And Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, there are questions, and I'm pretty sure that you are dying to know the answer for that. And so for the ultimate good of the mankind, and he answers, those questions get answered in the first canto itself. Actually, in the 2nd chapter itself, all these questions get answered. And so basically, the ultimate good for the mankind, right? What is the best thing for that can happen to mankind is that the man, that we all, go get over the material nature and we develop a relationship with God. If we do that, then that is the best thing that has happened to you. And if anything helps you in reaching that situation, then that is the best thing to you. So the ultimate good for the man is prema pumarto mahan, when you develop love for Godhead. Okay, and Krishna is walking him through that, in Bhagavad-Gita. He's telling him step by step, stage by stage, he's going to do that, right? And essence of all the scriptures. He's asking, what is essence of all the scriptures? Essence of all the scriptures, again, is that, whatever you read, ultimate thing you have to understand is that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. If you don't get it after reading all that, then that was a futile exercise, right? So ultimate thing is Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Do you remember that, right? And what did Krishna come? Now you have got any ideas about why does Krishna come? You want to tell me on the chat, why did Krishna come? Why does Krishna incarnate? They asked that question. Shraddha-devi says to remove miscreants and highlight, protect the devotees. And yes, that is correct, right? So this is the main thing that he comes here, right? And to reclaim whoever are in the pure mode of goodness, he will take them back to Godhead and help them. Right? And then what are the activities of his incarnation? Now this one actually, I take back my words, this one actually doesn't get answered in the second chapter itself. The whole of the third chapter is dedicated where his scheduled incarnation. So Krishna can incarnate at his will. He wants to incarnate now and come here, he can come. He wants to come to Pune, he can come. Nobody can stop him, right? But he also has got some schedule. He has a timetable by which he appears. And so his scheduled incarnation, some of the prominent scheduled incarnations, Shraddha-devi, Vedas-devi, Narada, so on and so forth, are described over there in the third chapter of the first canto. So the whole list, Sutta Goswami provides that, right? And then, what kind of pastimes his expansions perform in relation to creation, right? So then, it talks about, it's in second chapter itself, you get a very little one, right? That how his energies come together, how Krishna enters into each of the universes, and then how he, enters and takes incarnation and birth in all the species of human life. So there can be incarnation of Krishna among the snakes. He can incarnate among the horses, among the ants. We just don't know, right? So Krishna incarnates and all that there. And then the process of creation itself is gone into a little bit more detail in the second canto, where we see a lot of detailed creation, right? Is there, like how is earth created, how sound created, fire, so on and so forth, right? And then the last question that was like that, to whom Krishna Swadam Upagate Dharma Jnana Divi Saha Kalau Drishna, right? So it says, where have the religious principles gone? And then the answer is Kalau Drishtna Sham Esham. So in Kali Yuga, when people's eyesight is gone, eyesight is spoiled, people have become blind. And why have they become blind? And what is blinding them? Excessive materialism is blinding all of us, so that we fail to ask the very first question we are supposed to ask, and that is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. What is Brahman? What is spirit? We forget completely about spirit, and we just focus on the material side of the things. And you hear pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam about how the Vedas get stolen, and Krishna has to restore the Vedas at the end of the Kali Yuga. So there are some pastimes that talk about that. So what does it mean to say that Vedas get stolen in Kali Yuga? You go to internet, you find the Rig Veda. This means it's available for everybody, right? It's there. You can purchase it. Go to Amazon.com. You can purchase a copy of that, or any of the other booksellers. You can go and buy the Vedas. You can buy the Purana. So why do they say that the Vedas are lost? Right? And it is said that Vedas are lost. The primary reason for that is they are no longer the subject matter for study in our academic institutions. Earlier, when people went to the Gurukulas, this is all that we were taught. They were taught whatever they were to be taught through the medium of the Vedas, right? But now, no, there'll be a small department of religious studies which will, come up with, I don't know what all it comes up with. But it's not a mandatory thing for everybody to read, and it's not the thing. It's not the main thing. And where is Rig Veda 101, Rig Veda 601? You don't have those courses like that, right? So that is what it means, that all this knowledge gets lost, and people just end up asking the 4 wrong questions. What shall we eat? Right? Who should I get married to? Where should I spend my weekend? And so on and so forth. like that. So it's very, very important to ask the right questions. And when these sages of Naimisarina ask the right questions, then the second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, which is divinity and divine service, actually starts with the verse, Iti samprashna samvishto vipranam roma harshanihi pratipuja vachastesham pravaktum upachakrame. So then this is, Sutta Goswami is saying that, when Vyasadeva is saying that when the sages of Naimisharanya ask these 6 questions, iti samprashna. Samprashna means not any prashna. Sometimes people will ask prashna for any reason they will ask. Like the other day I was saying that Krishna is there as the Paramatma in the heart. So the question is he standing or is he sitting? Right? So these questions don't add much value, right? Prabhupada, have you seen Indra? Prabhupada, why do you shave your head? Recently, I was reading an article that my husband had forwarded about a chancellor of Germany, a lady. And the article was glorifying her dedication to the nation and her simple lifestyle. She had very few dresses. And so there was an interview where people asked her questions like, do you have maids in your home? No. So who does the dishes? You do the dishes or your husband does the dishes? And she said, my husband does the dishes and I wipe them. Who does the vacuuming? So she answered all those questions. And in the end, she said that I thought you were going to ask about the country's economy. Thank you, Sadhana Merkel. And I thought that you were going to ask me questions about economy or how I manage or how I, things like that. So these are useless questions. And when you ask those kind of useless questions, the answers to those questions are not going to be of any good, because it might just make somebody turn around and say, hey, Merkel's husband does the dishes. Why don't you do the dishes? And there's a fight that ensues in the house. So questions should be asked which are for the general good of the people. So iti samprasna samvishto vipranam brahma harshini prati puja vachastesham. So then he was very happy because these questions were meant for the general good of the people. Because by answering those questions, who is being benefited? Can you tell me? Because they asked that question almost 5,000 years ago. Right. So you see that the conversation is happening somewhere in Lucknow, in Uttar Pradesh, many, many thousands of years ago. And those answers, of course, they benefited them, right? And they benefited the people who are going to come in the future also. So not only that, so what a wonderful question that was, right? Or those 6 questions, what wonderful questions they were, that they're going to benefit everybody. And so there's a verse in Bhagavatam, it's in the 10th canto, it comes, and it says that when the Srimad Bhagavatam is being recited, there are 3 people who get benefited. There is a speaker gets benefited, because the speaker is speaking. And then the listeners are benefited because they are listening. So Krishna Katha is going, Pravishta Karna Randena, from their hole in the ear, it's going into the heart. Be careful, everything drains to the heart, what you put in your ears. So Pravishta Karna Randena, it goes over there. And then anybody and everybody in between and in the future, which means all the animals, all the creatures, all the plants, they're all souls, remember, they're all listening or at least being affected by the vibrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. So yes, and it's coming all the way now here and it is affecting us as well. So that is the importance of asking the right questions, and questions should not just be for titillating my intellect or my lower senses. That, did you see Indra? What was he wearing? Who does the dishes? Things like that, right? So these are very deep questions. And And of course, you see the result of that was Srimad Bhagavatam, a second time, right? Like that. And so Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses in the beginning, and then it expands. And it expands to explain more things. And sometimes stories will be added later on also. So don't be surprised if this Srimad Bhagavatam increases in size 100 years, 1,000, 2,000 years later. But I'm sure none of you will be here to see that on this loka. The Srimad Bhagavatam has got 18,000 verses on this planet, but it has got lakhs of verses in the upper planetary system where the lifespan is larger. People are also more inclined to listening to Krishna Katha, and also they have more time because most of the things for them are taken care of. If you look at the descriptions of the heavenly planets, the ladies don't have to cook. Gold, nobody has to mine the gold. It just washes on the shores of the rivers. You collect it from there. So life is much more easy. And the idea for making life easy is to make sure that the free time that we get, we dedicate towards Krishna consciousness. And not that we get all kinds of gadgets to relieve us of the drudgery of the daily chores so that we can sit with the remote in front of the television even more. That's not the idea. The idea is any free time that we get should be dedicated to Krishna. So it is very, very important. Questions are very, very important. And we saw that how the right questions affected Srimad Bhagavatam. And now in Bhagavad-Gita also, we are seeing the same thing. As Arjuna is listening to Krishna, and you will notice that as you listen to Krishna Katha, as you come in touch with the transcendental vibration, you will notice that your intellectual level is also going to bloom and go higher. What was Arjuna asking? Almost the same as what are we going to eat and what are we going to watch and how are we going to defend ourselves? One way of defense is to build a house around yourself, right? He says, Kinno Raj Bhogena Rajena, right? How are we going to enjoy the spoils of this war? How do you enjoy the spoils of the war? Right? You get more gold, you get more food, you get more women, like that. So, not necessarily women for Arjuna, but in general, I'm saying that. So he was asking question at that level. And then, something happened, association with Krishna maybe. And then he goes a little bit deeper. And in the second chapter, number 2, he's again asking, right? Guru ni hatyao mahanubhava, how can I kill my teacher? So at least from the fact that how will I eat, he's come to a better question than how will I kill? How can I kill my teachers? He's asking those kind of questions. But remember, Arjuna has surrendered. He surrenders to Krishna and he says, Sishyaste ham shadi mam tom prapanna. So he has become a student. And because he has become a student, he is entitled to ask questions. So this is one of the things. He's entitled to ask questions. And how are questions to be asked? Again and again. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyanti te jnanam jnanina tasvadarshinaha. So it says that you have to serve, surrender, and serve. Unless and until you don't surrender to the spiritual master, you cannot serve him. The desire to serve him will not be there. So you surrender, you serve, and then with humility, you ask the question, and they will give their answers because all the seva is going to touch their heart. And the knowledge is in their heart, and they will open their heart to you, and they will give you the knowledge. So questions are very much encouraged in our philosophy, right? But there is a method in which questions are to be asked. Now, if you look at our scriptures, Bhagavad-Gita, question and answers. Srimad Bhagavatam, question and answers, like that. So there are a lot of, dialogue in our scriptures, which makes our scriptures really rich and makes our scriptures very different from others. That is not necessarily the case with other scriptures from other thought processes or lines of thought. So this is a very good way. And as I went through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I still do, I'm just amazed at the kind of questions that Yudhishthira will ask, or Parikshit Maharaj will ask. And it's like, oh, these kind of questions didn't even strike our mind. And look at these people at what level and what plane they are there. So here also you will see that, Arjuna's questions will evolve as they go higher and higher. And then once all his questions are answered, he surrenders in the 18th chapter, and he just says that I am just going to, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. Okay. So Arjuna's confusion now here is coming is that he had said you take renunciation and you renounce everything and you don't do any work. And so he's thinking, well, if I don't have to do any work, then, why should I fight? Akarma, don't do any work. So his confusion is coming from over there. And so then in these first two verses of the third chapter, he's asking them, should I be situated in knowledge or should I work? Because two of them are opposed. But the moment you know that you get the knowledge that you're a soul and not the body, then why should I even bother about anything to do with the body, right? So he's thinking that the body is meant for enjoyment or the body is meant for doing work. And if you're saying that I don't want to enjoy anything, then I can sit back like a python and not do anything, right? Like that. So that his confusion is there. And he's asking Krishna, Vyamishrena Vakyena, what do I do? But we all know that Krishna is not saying that. Krishna did not mean that in the second chapter, right? Well, he talked about how you get a peace of mind, where he said you remove the I-ness from yourself, that I am something, I'm the possessor, I am the doer, I am this and I'm that. And he says you move away from there and be situated like that at the time of death. Then Brahmani Sthiti, you'll be situated on the spiritual platform and you'll get peace. The peace is opposite of war. So he's saying, all right, you're giving me the way to peace. I'll go pursue the war of the peace, because deep inside Arjuna's higher heart, he does not want to fight. He's convinced he should not fight. So, but Krishna, and subsequently, Krishna will tell him about, Nishkam karma, karmarnevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. He's going to explain and then saying that how through the process of work also we will be able to get in touch with the Supreme Lord and will be able to go back to Godhead. Sthane sthita. Sthane sthita, stay wherever you are, right? And do what you have to do. And sometimes, even in the process of doing our devotional service, sometimes we come across situations where we say, I'm chanting, so I will not do this. You do that. I'm chanting, somebody knocks at my door. I'm not going to open it. I have to finish this round, right? Or I'm doing an arti of the Lord and somebody knocks at my door. What am I supposed to do? It's a Vaishnava standing on my door. So these kind of thoughts of thoughts for in favor of inaction can come into our mind. And we can say that, okay, because I'm doing this higher thing, that I'm doing this devotional service, I don't have to do that lower thing. But then there are certain things that we have to follow. If there's a Vaishnava on your door, you will get up. If you're at your home, you will get up and you will welcome a Vaishnava, because if you don't welcome the Vaishnavas, there are serious consequences of that. So you welcome the Vaishnava, ask them to sit, tell them that you're now going to finish the arti or whatever you're doing, and then you will come back and join them again. So make sure they are comfortably seated, they have something to read, they have some water to drink, and so on and so forth. So that is devotional service. So devotional service doesn't mean that you don't do any work, right? But you work for Krishna. And that is the journey that we all will take on, how do we work for Krishna? And ultimately, Arjuna will do that. He worked for Krishna, he fought for Krishna, right? And in that process, he lost his family, but he did it for Krishna. So like that, okay? So I'm going to stop here to give you sufficient time to reflect and ask questions that you have. And you can raise your hands that, if you use the computer to raise your hands, that will be easy, because I can see you raising your hands here. And if you want to type, that's also an option. I'm looking also at the chat window here. So, Vyamishrena Vakyena. Arjun has asked this fantastic question of us because Most of us did not get that at the end of second chapter. I did not get it for sure when I read it the first time. So he has paved the path so that Krishna can answer his questions for us here. Okay. So I'll give you a little few minutes to think about and reflect or ask questions here. And I'm looking at the chats here to see where we are. Oh, there are some hands raised. Okay. And let's see. So the Sadhana Mataji and Archana Mataji, and let's see on the screen here. Okay, so Archana, go ahead. You are on my extreme left, so that's the order I'm following.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, I was just wondering, like you talked about a Nishkam Yoga, I mean Nishkam work, like whatever you do, you have to do it without any attachment. Is that right, Mataji? Like when we do Nishkam means we don't have attachment to the results of work.
With focus on it. Will I win? Will I not win? What's going to happen? Will I, Yeah.
Okay.
Give it
so
your
Mataji,
best. Yeah. You have to give it your best.
Okay, without focusing on the results.
Yeah.
So, Mataji, when we do Nishkam Karma, or I mean, without any attachment to the fruits of action, so that is Karma Yoga, or when we do anything, when we offer our, results of action to Krishna, that is Karma Yoga. So I was little like confused.
Yeah. So to be able to work and not focus on the results of the work, you have to do something with the results of the work, right? And the only way that you can do the work without focusing on the result is to give it to Krishna. Right? There's no other way, because if you don't give it to Krishna, you're giving it somewhere, right? And then the focus goes there. But if you're working for Krishna, and Prabhupada gives a very nice example, he says a clerk working in a bank, right? He counts the money that comes in or goes out. He's not bothered. His job is just to count the money. He's not bothered like, oh, the bank, oh, $20,000 went out of the bank. Oh yeah, 1 million came into the bank. He's not bothered. He's just bothered with his work, with results he's giving to the bank. He doesn't. So when you give the results to others, the others are getting the result. It's a human tendency. We will not think about it.
Okay, Mataji. So like if a person, when it comes to Karma Yogi, if he's not that much attached to the Lord, I mean, if he's not a devotee, then what does Karma Yogi means? Like, can you cite some example?
The right example of a Karma Yogi, not doing anything. Well, you can earn money and you can set up a hospital without any connection to Krishna. So you gave
without any attachment also, you are saying,
yeah,
Mataji,
like without any attachment, without any knowledge. You're just doing
like,
it because it makes you feel good.
But Mataji, we can think of the result, right? We are, opening or, establishing any hospital for the benefit of the mankind. So there is some, bhav is there, right? Intention is there to serve.
No, intention and results are different things, right? My intention is to open a hospital, right? And I'm investing some money. And whether the hospital will be built or whether there's going to be an earthquake on the inauguration day and it's going to fall down, those are the things I can focus on the result, right? So intentions were there to build a hospital, right?
Okay.
So those always come.
Okay.
So if you're focusing on the results, we're focusing on those parts will always be there. And if you're building it for Krishna, then you'll say, I'm building it for Krishna. Krishna will take care of it. And if the hospital breaks down, you will say, Krishna wanted it to break down because you were doing it for Krishna. If you were doing it for me, it was like, oh, I wanted to become the famous person who built a 1,000-room hospital. And look at this earthquake. It had to come at this moment and spoil all my fun.
Okay, so Mataji, you are saying intention is there to serve the people, but whether the hospital will be, it'll be, it'll run in success or it'll be a failure, it's a disaster, that doesn't matter to the person who is, opening it for the Krishna. So that is actually work in Krishna consciousness.
Right. Okay. To go a little bit deeper, yeah. So you can go and say that, I'm going to build a hospital which will take care of the Americans because I am an American, right?
Yeah.
A little bit detachment is doesn't matter. I'll just ask in the world who needs a hospital more. I will give it to them, but still I'm giving it to them, right? Why? Because they are human beings. Some might say, I don't care. It can be hospital for animals also. So you see how you're expanding, but there's still some connection there, right? We are in the species, we are living beings, we should take care of living beings. So that those good thoughts are there, they're doing it. When you're building a hospital for Krishna, you're building it because these are all Krishna's people and they are suffering. They're Krishna children, they are suffering. So you see the main reason why you're doing it changes. And when you're doing it, so then there can be a little bit of attachments, like I am doing it for Krishna's thing. No, Krishna has given me some money. It has to be used for Krishna's service. So let me use it for Krishna's devotees, or or any devotees for that matter, or anybody for that matter, bringing in the connection with Krishna. And then all the time I'm saying that, Krishna gave me this money. I'm just an instrument. Nimit madhava savachachin. I'm just an instrument. And if Krishna wants it to happen, it'll happen. If he doesn't want it to happen, then there's nothing I can do to make it happen. To understand our position and have that humility also. And kartaham iti manyate, right? Not have that. I'm not the one who does it. Right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Sadhana Mataji. Yeah, Nishkam Karma is a difficult thing to do.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavats pranams. Yeah, so, I was thinking about, because we started talking about the topic of Arjuna asking questions directly, given his predicament, but then we were looking at Parikshit Maharaj's questions and why he was asking, right? And there's such a big difference. Arjuna is coming in from where he's not even worried about him dying, or even thinking about consequences after his death. Whereas Parikshit Maharaj he's dying and he's thinking about the consequences post-death, right? No, Son will say no. I don't know. So it's just one is much to do with somebody just living about life, not worried. I'm just reflecting on the really quite different approaches in the questioning and where they come from and the mindset, because the one person who's worried about death obviously has a much more profound question. If you're worried about dying and what happens to you, versus somebody who is going to just pass time, maybe go into the forest, maybe go to war, that's kind of not a focused person, right? So I don't know, that was my reflection.
It's a fantastic reflection. It's a fantastic reflection, and it actually is pointing out to the difference between Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam. And they say that Mahabharata is if it is at this level, Bhagavatam is here somewhere. Why? The Bhagavatam is Amal Puran, completely focused on, soul about to die. What is the duty of a man who's about to die, and what's the duty of a man who's living? And then straight away answer comes, Savaya dharmo, Savaya pumsan paro dharmo, yado bhakti radhokchate. You have to do bhakti of the adhoksha, the one who cannot be found by the senses. You have to do that. Simple answer. And straight it will go into, there'll be a little talk here and there about, because of the audience which was there, there'll be some talk of pantheism and, finding God, in mountains and universal form of the Lord and things like that, but very little. It will jump straight into the devotees. And then that is why it's called Amal Puran, completely Amal Puran. And so you will see the level of questions are different. It doesn't mean that Arjuna is not as intelligent as Parikshit Maharaj. It's just that we have to remember they are playing roles. They have come here. They are already devotees of the Lord. So Arjuna doesn't need to be told the Bhagavad-Gita or Bhagavatam or anything. He already knows that. He has come here in that particular role. And he's asking the levels of the kind of questions that are applicable more for the general mass of people. And that's why you'll find that a lot of people love to read about Mahabharata. You tell them there's a Mahabharata class coming, they'll run and come and sit. And they will know everything, who was whose and who was whose Madri, and what was Madri's brother's name and what was his father's name and who was on which side and who when, and they know all that, right? They like it. Bhagavatam is at a higher level. So yes, and this today's lecture was about questions, and what about the qualities of the question, the kind of questions that you ask, the teacher will respond in an appropriate manner, and you will get the corresponding answers like that. Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Virabhav.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. So I had a question. You said Krishna has a schedule like incarnation, right? Like he comes on schedule every time. So like let's say Parshuram, he came when the Kshatriya kings were really reckless about the duties and stuff like that. So every time Krishna comes, there's something he's coming to fix, which he knows is going to happen. That's why he has a scheduled time, right?
Not necessarily to fix certain things, in the sense that he has to come and kill, right? In some pastimes, he will just come to preach, like Rishabh. Yeah, Rishabh-devi is an example. He just preached. Rishabh-devi didn't fight any war. He didn't kill any demons and things like that. So if you read the 3rd chapter, you'll get to know.
Even Gautam Buddha also did not come to fight.
Yeah.
He also came to preach.
That's right. Yeah.
No, what I meant is like the Gautam Buddha came because people were like killing animals and they were not, So
so you're saying he came to fix, although he didn't
Yeah.
fight, but he came here to fix. Yeah, but
yeah,
but not necessarily. Not necessarily.
okay.
Yeah, not necessarily. And then the word fix can be used in a very, can be used in so many ways. Well, I came as Rishabh-devi to fix the lack of knowledge. I fix it. Right? It's not necessary that you always fix a wrong. You can also be fixing gaps which are there, right?
Yeah.
That, right? Or I came as Vyasdev to fix the lack of documentation.
Yeah.
So the word fix can be used in many ways, right?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking that, so we can clarify. Anything else? Any thought that comes to your mind? Anything that you heard in the class that you want to take away from the purport, from what we discussed, from what we asked?
I just find it hard to remember the 6 questions at the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Well, you can make note of them and stick them.
I have those 6 questions, Mataji. I'll post them.
There you go.
Hey, thank you.
Thank
Usha
you.
Mataji over to the rescue.
Yes, she's very good at documenting. Yep, she's a Vyasdeva. Yeah. So as we read the Bhagavatam and as we are reading, right? As we are reading, then you will there'll be situations where we will find Vyamishrena Vakyana. that there is some controversial things that Prabhupada is talking about, or even the Shastras are talking about controversial things. And so always have this thing in mind that when the teacher, a good teacher, not necessarily any teacher, but a good teacher, when he's teaching to his student, never says Vyamishrena Vakyana. He will never speak contradictory things. If the student is seeing some contradiction, it is the lack of student's understanding that he sees that contradiction there. And that is why a student is allowed to ask questions so that he can clarify these contradicting thoughts that are there, right? So that's why these kind of engagements are open. So classes are open up for questions, and like I said, our scriptures are full of questions, so that as you're reading, if some questions are coming up, you'll say, oh yeah, next page the same question was asked by somebody else, and it gets answered there. So it's a good thing to ask questions. And we also saw about the categories of questions, right? So think about what we asked, and we just take it from there. So one of the moods also to always keep in mind is that these scriptures have to be read in a mood of surrender. Surrender to Sukdev Goswami. Acknowledge in your hearts, in our hearts, we should acknowledge that he's better than us. No matter how he looked, no matter his wardrobe, right, or lack of it, no. He's a supreme intelligent person, And Sukhdev Goswami spoke that for me, have that gratitude in us, that humility and the gratitude. The humility and gratitude will come, then we will stop reading the scriptures to find mistakes. Because I have come with some mindset of my own, and now I'm going to see where Bhagavatam goes against my mindset. And then I'm going to say that, you are wrong. Why? Because I don't want to change my mindset, because I am something like that, right? So Arjuna tried that, 2 chapters. We can also try. Arjuna had a long life. We don't have that much of a time to spend. We might just think that we can do it at a later date. We don't know. So we have to ask the questions as soon as we can, start reading the scriptures as soon as we can. President Kennedy, he didn't know he was going to die, right? Indira Gandhi, she didn't know he was going to die. Rajiv Gandhi was campaigning for an election, he didn't know he was going to die. Like that. So we don't know when we are going to die. So we should be very careful of that, cognizant of the fact. Look at the scriptures with respect. And keep the writer on a high pedestal. And as soon as the writer goes on a high pedestal, then things go from a higher to a lower level, always. From a lower level to higher level is difficult, always. Okay? Alrighty, so if there are no more questions and reflections, then thank you so much for joining this call. And thank you so much for watching us here on Facebook, Nijtam Prabhu, Hemlata Mataji, Premlata Mataji, and Vidyavata Mataji, and Nikun Sundari Mataji. Fantastic. So we'll meet again tomorrow, Krishna willing. From today till tomorrow, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchikalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuryevacha, Patitanam Parnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Gopremanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Mataji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.